Okay, so sometimes the metal's got to hit the road, and we get to a point where we look at it and we say, this has purpose to us. And it's a little hard for me to take time to go through some of the examples where this is going to be important. But mathematically, this is where we find solutions when we have two equations. Now, we're going to start out on page 171, and what we're talking about example 1. All right? Example 1 is given to us as follows. Y is greater than 2x minus 1. 2x minus 1. All right, is greater than. So we know a couple things right up to that when we're going to graph. All right, now, the next part of this is y is less than or equal to negative x plus 1. So we're going to take two lines, put them on a graph, and they're going to cross. They're going to give us some type of cross. All right. Once we've done that, we need to pick one of the four, possibly two of the four later when you get into algebra 2, that's going to give us the answers we're looking for. Now, having said that, that means we've got to graph both of these bad boys. So, and I want you to understand that the graphing part of this is not truly what you should be challenged by. Really, it shouldn't be anymore. You just need to do more graphing. And I know that's kind of like reading. You have to do more reading to read better. Well, this is the money here, so. Alright. So, the first thing we know is that about our first line, which is y is greater than 2x minus 1, is that it's going to start down here, right? We're going to use red for it. And if it's starting down here, and I'm trying to speed through this so I'm not spending a lot of time on other things, we know it's going to be, is it going to be solid or is it going to be broken? It's going to be a broken line, right? So we'll get to that point in a minute. But we know the slope of it is 2, so that's 2 over 1. It's up 2 and over 1. Up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. And just to be sure that we're going in the right direction, we're going to do that. Now, myself personally, when I'm looking at this, what I want to do is I want to put an arrowhead someplace that's going to be useful. This is a good place for an arrow. In case you hadn't caught that before, I'm sure that's my fault. So now I'm going to make my line, and I already know it's a broken line. This cannot be equal to 2x minus 1. Y cannot be equal to 2x minus 1. F sub x cannot be equal to 2x minus 1. So I'm going to do this. And I would like to do this with a ruler, just like I always tell you to do with straight edge, but we're trying to beat the clock here a little bit too. So we see what kind of line this is, right? It's a broken line. Now, the second part of this is our second line. Our second line is going to be solid. That's kind of an advantage to us. And we want to use a different color, so we'll use the purple. Alright? And the second line is negative x, which to my friends should recognize that that's negative 1 divided by 1. But we already know that we're going to start out with this at plus 1. Alright? That's our map. That tells us where to start traveling. That is our slope. So now we're going to go negative 1x. That's going to look like this. Negative has the slope from left to right. Positive has the rise from left to right. Said that wrong, but that's okay. And let's put the arrowhead out here again. again, you probably haven't seen me do this before this way, but hey, you know what? We're always growing, we're always learning. Now I can go from here, and my arrowhead, and I should be fairly square. Alright, now, so here's the thing. I know my answer is either this quarter, this quarter, this quarter, or this quarter. One of those 4 quarters has to have my arrowhead in it. Now I'm going to suggest to you when I look at this, I know y is greater than 2x minus 1. This is 2x minus, and let's make sure we understand what we're talking about. 2x minus 1 is here. Big red ball there. Right? Y equals 2x minus 1 here. Because we always want these things labeled. And then the other one is y equals negative x plus 1. And that's right here. And, you know, our same tools still come into play. Alright, now, what I know to be true is that if this is going to be greater than y equals 2x minus 1, y equals, well, excuse me, y is greater than 2x equals 1, then my answer should be somewhere over here. If you don't see that, I think you can solve this in other ways, but it's nice when you see a simple one because, honestly, this is the easiest way to solve this. Alright, so the second part of this says we're going to create, let's go back to the purple pen that I was using before, y is less than or equal to negative x plus 1, right? So negative x plus 1 is going to look like this, right? Y is less than or equal to. Now this can get confusing very, very quickly. Alright? What we're looking for, the solution should be in the shared region. I'm not saying quarter because I know this is not going to be quarters and halves, things like that. You can think of it as a quarter. The only area that's shaded by both colors is this one right here, right? So, do we have a point in this area right here that we can use? Well, it looks like 0, 0's in there, doesn't it? The origin, right? So, let's do the 1. I'm not going to move on to the 2. I think you can get that after this lesson. 1 is red. Let's use red. And my writing might get small here. So I'm saying y is greater than 2x minus 1. 0 is greater than 2 times 0 minus 1. Well, that answer is 0 is greater than minus 1. True or false? True. True. Alright, so we're okay so far. Now let's look at the other one, which is going to be y equals negative x plus 1. You always want to write your formula down first, the one that you're starting. And you know, different colored pencils, hey, I've seen people be very successful with it, especially when they get here, because this thing could look a little messy pretty quickly. And I try to keep it kind of neat for you, but you know, So now I have 0 equals negative 0. There's no such thing as negative 0. Is less than, not is equal to. Sorry about that. That's a mistake that you don't want to make on a paper. That's going to take a point up. It's a 5-point question. You just took 20% away. So you want to check that. Make sure this is this. Negative 0 plus 1. So that says 0 is less than or equal to 1. True or false? Check mark on the side. True. We are correct. We've got the right quarter here. We've drawn our lines right. We've got the quarter here. The other questions that come here get very simple very quickly. On example 2, on page 172, we're going to talk, what we're talking about there is we're talking about writing a system of inequalities from a graph. I think you can do that. If not, then let's work on it. Okay? Namaste.